Here we go. Keep Shooting Monday, number 33. Hey everyone, Greg Cazillo from Cazillo.com. Welcome to Keep Shooting Monday, number 33. I think I'm starting to get a little bit better at this. It only took me like 20 minutes to set this stuff up today and get everything going and ready. So the live shows are getting a little bit easier and audio's clicking, things are a little bit easier and just falling into place. So just like anything, man, you gotta have that experience. Somebody posted on Facebook, I think one of my Facebook friends, by the way, that's what the Facebook page is for. If you do friend me, I'm probably not going to respond unless I know you in person. Anyway, one of my friends posted on Facebook something about the whole 10,000 hours thing, which I had mentioned in the past, and thinking to myself, yep, I talked about that a while ago, and it does make a difference. So gaining that experience and doing it well, doing it over and over, does make a difference. And just keep on getting better, keep on trying, keep on doing those new things so that you don't get stagnant. All right, so a couple things that I wanted to talk about today. Number one, get your photo posted for the emotion photo assignment. This should not be a difficult one to do. You should be able to get some really cool motion. There's a couple photos up there, but I don't want to say there isn't anything spectacular, but I know you guys can do better. So let's get some really cool ones up there. Let's work on it. Let's get some fun stuff. Get it posted up there. It has to be shot between now and this Friday at 5 p.m. when you have to post it by then so that I can get it in next week's video. So make sure you get them up. All right. Couple of news items today. This was interesting, and I'm surprised that it actually works. Turn my audio on here.
Charged. The other one is pretty much dead.
So
take both batteries and drop them on a
I'm
hard
really
surface.
surprised.
The charged battery will make a thump sound and often stand up. Now look what happens when we drop the discharged battery. It clearly bounces and will not. It will make a thump sound.
I can't believe this works.
Now look what happens when we drop the discharged battery. Thump sound and often.
So amazingly enough, this works, and I haven't really super tried it. You know what? I actually have what I do is I actually keep my batteries, my old batteries, and so let's. So that one seems to be fine. Let's try another one I think might be dead. Basically, yeah, it actually kind of works. Basically, I keep my old batteries out of my flashes, and a lot of times when I go to another shoot, I will then take those batteries, throw them back in the camera case. I don't throw them away because they might not have enough charge to power the flash right then, but they do have enough charge to, say, power my mouse or my other mouse or the mouse I have at home or something else that I have, some other device. And so a lot of times I will just hold on to those batteries, put them in I throw them in the camera bag, and then when I get back to the studio or back home, I take them and throw them. I have one of those same containers at home of just not quite dead batteries. I know they're not dead, but I might be able to use them again, put them in something else instead of wasting them. So I do also use, I have my charger. I don't have my charger here at this desk. I do also use my Energizer and the rechargeables. Haven't been using them as much lately because they don't seem to hold a charge over time. In other words, I might charge them today, but then need to use them on Thursday. I have a photo shoot, and so they might be fine today, but they wouldn't be fine on Thursday. Might not get the full charge out of them. So I've kind of gone back to alkalines, at least for right now. But you never know. Maybe I need to try another brand. I don't know. But anyway, try this little tip out. See if it works for you. See if it might be an easy way for us to figure out if the batteries are good enough to put back in our flash and to use that for that shoot. So, just a thought. Tamron. As you guys may or may not know, I've never been a huge fan of Tamron lenses. I've always thought that they were kind of the Kia or the real low end. You know, the Kia and the car manufacturing, you know, they're pretty low end as far as aftermarket lenses are concerned. But I like this. I like the fact that they're turning this around, that they're doing stuff, that they're pushing the envelope in 3-day turnaround on repairs. That's awesome. That means I could send in a lens on Monday, have it back on Friday for a shoot on Saturday. That's awesome. That means if the lens went down on Saturday, something happened, I send it right away on Monday, I can have it back Friday. That's awesome. So I'm glad to see the aftermarket doing more to press the envelope and to go farther and to do these things. But now we just need to get the big boys to do it too. So this is a step in the right direction. Glad to see the Tamron's doing it. This is what small companies need to do in order to make a difference. And that's make and announce things like this and make it happen. And because this is what good customer service is all about, being able to put cool stuff out like this. And, it takes a small company to be able to do something like that in general. It's kind of hard for a big company to do it, but glad to see Tamron's doing it. I think it's awesome. Talk a little bit about color, adding color to photos. I've done this a couple times, and it's difficult. It's very difficult. You need to be just as much of an artist as you are a photographer or, a Photoshop expert. Some really cool stuff here. I mean, look at this image here. You have flames. You have a guy burning himself, I guess. You need to pick the right colors. You need to be able to shade them. You have to understand color and shade and contrast and all of these things. And so this is a really interesting set of photographs that, what was this guy's name? Senna Dalloway went and re-edited these photos, and it's just so cool. It really is. Some of these images, like I said, I've done this. This photo looks almost completely real to me. If you look at that, it looks like it could just be an old photograph shot on film and that it wasn't originally shot in black and white. It's that good. And so, it can be fun to do something like this and to try it out on some of those old photos. Maybe an old family photo. It's just going to take some practice in order to make it look really good and really, what's the word I'm looking for? Realistic, if that's what you're going for. So, just a thought. Medium format talk. A lot of rumors going around right now about Canon bringing out a medium format system. And I would love to see it. I said this like 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe, that I would love to see Nikon put out a medium format system. And now there's a lot of rumors going around that Canon's doing it. And I really hope that they do. Because I've always thought that Canon and Nikon are two of the best camera manufacturers in the world. And I think that the medium format the medium format companies, the Hasselblads and the I can't even think of the ones that are still in business nowadays, but Hasselblad is the one that really comes to mind. They kind of lack in a lot of things, and they're behind in a lot of things, in their autofocus speed, in their ISO performance. Obviously they're kings of sensor size and detail and low ISO. Yes, absolutely. But there's a lot of things that I think that they can do a lot better. And if they have someone else in competition, Canon and Nikon, that would be amazing. And I would totally invest in a newer camera, in a bigger camera. If I was doing a lot of studio work, if I was needed a lot of work, I needed a bigger sensor, I think that would really be awesome. So, yeah, I'm glad to see these rumors out there, and I hope that they're true, because then Nikon will get into it, and it's only going to make our lives easier and give us more choices as photographers. Granted, it's not going to be a cheap system. I guarantee it's probably going to be 20 grand for a body, you know, especially when it first comes out. Maybe it'll come down to 10 once it's out there for a while. So it's going to be, you know, like prices back in the day. You know, 25 years ago, in order to get into shooting weddings, you had to spend 20 grand on a medium format camera. And good lenses, and lighting, and a good flash, and all this stuff. Nowadays, people just buy a $500, you know, D5200 or, you know, a T3i and put up their website and call themselves a wedding photographer. So it's definitely changed a lot. And anyway, interesting stuff that's going on. By the way, if you have any questions that you want me to answer today, go ahead and post those, and that'd be cool. Gene, I did see your post over on Facebook, so I will get to yours. Okay, cool. So some questions today. Ever go to a wedding now as a photographer and get annoyed that the mistakes the person that they hired does? Yes, and that's why I try to avoid going to other weddings or other events where I see other photographers, because it drives me up the wall to see the little things. Most of the time, it's the photographers there with, you know, like I said, a D5200 and a crappy kit lens, and I'm just sitting back in the corner and just shaking my head like, oh my goodness, what, you know. And typically the person will say to me, well, Greg, I just wanted to invite you. You're a friend. I didn't want to ask you for too much. And so I understand that, but I'd rather do the wedding, shoot the wedding, and just have fun doing that, because it is fun to me, rather than be put through this horrible things that this other photographer is doing that I know isn't going to turn out well. So, yes, absolutely. I have seen it, and it sucks. Polka Dot Background. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Any chance I'll see you in New York this fall? Yes, I will be going to the photo... What's that thing called? New York photo... Somebody tell me... photo something. Photo... Expo. Photo Plus Expo. Yes, I will be going to the Photo Plus Expo this year. I've been going every year. I think I've been going for about 8 years, 9 years, something like that. It's already on my calendar, but here it is, October 24th to the 26th. I will definitely be there. It is at the Jacob Javits Center in New York. I typically go for a day. I may or may not go for 2 days. Haven't decided yet, but I'll at least be up there on Friday. And so if you did want to meet up with me, send me a tweet or something. We'll meet and talk and chat, whatever. But yeah, 24th to 26th, I'll definitely be up there. So add that to your calendar and join me up there at some point. That'd be cool. Next question. What do you use to edit your photos? This was a tweet that came in this week from Katrina, and like it says here, probably about 90% Lightroom and 10% Photoshop. Not a whole lot of Photoshop. I've definitely found that as Lightroom has gotten better and better, I have used Photoshop less and less, and I think that's easier. I like working on RAW files and having the full possibilities of that RAW rather than having to go all the way down to a PSD. Not to say that a PSD isn't good, but to be able to have all that raw data to work from, I think is awesome, and to stay in a single application. It's getting better and better, and so, yeah, 90-10, maybe 90, I don't know, 95-5, but definitely Lightroom is number one. And then there was another question that somebody said, oh, that was what it was. This Raw to the Bone guy said to me, well, you inspired me to get into Lightroom years ago, and I've been using Lightroom since the very first beta of Lightroom that came out. I knew it was going to be a big application. I knew it was going to stick around. The studio that I was working for at the time, we were using Adobe Bridge and what was the other application we were using as a RAW processor? I'm trying to remember what the name of that application was called. came with, I know it's still out there, and I forget the name of it. Anyway, good. It was an okay application. It's kind of slow and kind of clunky. And anyway, it ended up being, you know, Lightroom I knew was going to be awesome, was going to kick ass. And so I ended up switching over to it, and it worked out well. So, Gene had asked, hey, Greg, I'm thinking very hard about making the move on a top-end Nikon body. Get a refurbished D3S for $3,700. I'm going to spend $600 on the D4. At this point, I would probably, if you're getting into it, I'd probably go with the D4. Personally, I already have the D3S, so it's still doing fine for me. I'm going to have it for a couple more years, I'm sure, and I use it all the time. I would, at this point, since it's been out for like a year or something like that, the D3Ss I think are no longer being made, or they're going to be discontinued very soon. I would probably stop buying the D3S and just go with a 4. Alright. Especially if I had to buy right now, that's definitely the way that I would go. From Hector, I'm a portrait and wedding photographer. There you go, zoom in a little bit for you. Portrait and wedding photographer, I'm looking for a laptop that can handle Photoshop, CC, and Lightroom 5. Always on the road, need to work on my images when I'm on the road. Budget $1,000. Well, that pretty much outs any Mac laptop, unless you buy one used. Which is fine. If you wanted to go, if you like the Mac hardware and you like the Mac ecosystem, then it's a good way to go. Personally, and I've talked about this before, I love the Mac hardware. I love the MacBook Pro. I like how thin it is. The keyboard is good. I can use the trackpad for a long time, although a lot of times I will use my Magic Mouse just to make it a little bit easier sometimes, especially if I'm working a lot on it. You know, say I'm working remotely all day, or maybe I'm working from home that day. Using the mouse is going to be easier, because at one point I actually was using my trackpad so much, the tips of my fingers were actually starting to get numb. That's when I finally went out and bought myself a Magic Mouse. And the other thing is, I didn't think I was going to like the Magic Mouse, but I do. I like it, even though it's flat. I don't know how, I mean, with my big, huge paws, I don't know how. See, look how small this thing is compared to my hand. Here, I'll show you that way. The Magic Mouse is tiny in my hand. And anyway, what was I thinking? Oh, the hardware is good. The hardware is good. Love it. Absolutely love it. And, you know, personally, I don't have any problems running anything on this machine. I have 8 gigs of RAM, and it's this is a 2010 model, 8 gigs of RAM, 2.4 gigahertz Intel i5. I wouldn't go any slower than this type of configuration in a PC or in a Mac. So, say from 2010 or 2011 and newer, if you're going to buy a used Mac to go with. If you're going to buy a newer machine or a brand new machine, say in a PC, obviously the Macs are going to be out of your budget for a brand new one, and they are out of a lot of people's budgets. I would probably look at either the Toshiba's or the Sony's. Another brand to look at is Lenovo. I think their machines are awesome. I really like the Lenovo machines. The big thing is spend some time in the store playing with it. Like, I have a Toshiba machine, and it was actually a laptop that I replaced it with this MacBook. But I'm not a fan of it. The trackpad I never really liked, and I didn't spend enough time with it. I ended up buying it, and it's like an 8-pound machine. It weighs a ton, but it had a 7-hour battery. You know, I love that. Wow, 7 hours on a single battery on a single charge, and it still gets like 4.5 hours on that single battery charge, which is great. But, you know what I mean? It is what it is, I guess. But look at the Lenovo's, look at the Sony's, take a look at the Toshiba if your budget's a little bit lower. I would say at least 8 gigs of RAM and a decent processor, and you know, get a good screen. Try and get an anti-glare screen or something or a matte screen if you can get it. That's always nicer in my opinion. Not a big fan of the high gloss screen of my MacBook. Yeah, I think that's about it. So let's get into some questions here on YouTube. Was there anything else over on... Nothing else on Twitter. And let me refresh here once more, see if there was anything else. How to get rid of overexposed skies. Typically, there's no way to get rid of them. Shoot a different direction, shoot at a different time of the day. That's really about it. There's nothing much you can do about that, typically, because if you're going to expose properly, you're going to be exposing for the foreground, meaning that sky is probably going to be maybe 3 stops over, 4 stops over, maybe even more. That means it's completely blown out, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So you got to shoot at a different time of the day, or you got to add some light in the foreground in order to balance it. That can work. Add some flash into the foreground in order to balance the two better. But obviously that doesn't always work with, say, a large subject like maybe a car or whatever it could be. You know, it'll probably work well for, say, a portrait, but maybe not a building. You know, stuff like that. So choose your time of day more carefully, and also try shooting the other direction. If you're shooting towards the sun, then you're going to get more of that blown out. If you keep the back to the sun, then you're going to have the darker side of the sky, and it's going to make it look a little better. Alright, what do you think about buying used lenses on Amazon? As long as they have a return policy, I would not see a problem with it. As long as there's a return and you can get it and look at it and say, nope, this isn't as described, and send it back, get your money back, I don't think it'll be an issue. I bought my 300 2.8 on eBay, and the guy had a certificate, it had a documentation that it was sent in to Nikon and cleaned within a couple months before, and you know, lens has been rocking ever since. So it's definitely worth it. It can save you some money. I would definitely lean towards the higher end ones. You know, you want to stay with the better lenses, the Sigmas, the Nikons, the Canons. Stay with, and get the good ones, the pro lenses. I wouldn't go with, I wouldn't buy like a 28 to 105 4 to 5.6 on there that's $50. That's definitely not something that I would do. So, all right. Let's see. Thanks, Paul, for the comment. Yeah, some things go in one end of the brain and never come out. You know how that is. Let's see. Yes, I'm transmitting from the studio. My desk is actually in the back of the studio. One of these days I will do a tour video. Just not yet. I'm just kind of gearing up and doing different things. Been really super busy with a lot of other website stuff and clients. So that's been keeping me pretty busy. And then, of course, doing my other photo stuff at the same time. So it's been a busy schedule lately. Let's see. Oh, yes, this thing. Do you use a gray card? Yes, I use a gray card. This is actually a color checker chart, which I prefer because you have a lot more options to play with it. And if you really know what you're doing, you can do a ton with this thing. I don't have just a regular gray card here on the desk, I don't think. No. Basically, what a gray card is just one of these gray patches, but then in a bigger version. And so, yes, I will use it once in a while. Usually, you will use it in the studio. We're going to balance the light very well. And, that's when you need to use it. I want to get that perfect, accurate color when I'm in the studio. When I'm outdoors, shooting portrait, wedding, it can be a little bit more creative, a little more fun, a little bit more... I don't know what the word is. I have a little bit more creative freedom is probably a good way to put it. And so I can be a little more creative at those times. But if I'm shooting, say, a product photo in the studio, I need that color to be perfect and be right on. So that's when I'll shoot one of those color checker charts or a gray card in a single frame and then apply that white balance setting to all the other frames in the series inside of that single lighting setup. And that'll give me a nice, accurate color. So, last chance for questions. You have any experience of doing time lapses, about getting a motorized slider? Any advice when it comes to a brand? No. I don't have any advice on that, unfortunately. I haven't done a lot of time-lapse stuff myself. Maybe one of these days I would try it. One channel, if you're into that kind of thing and into movies and that kind of thing, I would definitely check out Film Riot on YouTube. Film Riot is an awesome YouTube channel. I follow them. They do some excellent videos about filmmaking, and so yeah, I would check them out, see if there's anything in there. Do a search around YouTube, see what you find, try it out. There might be some DIY ways to do it rather than doing it, going out and purchasing one. For something like that, it's probably going to be what's the word I'm looking for? Say a personal project. And so having professional looking gear isn't going to be 100% necessary. And so that'd be one of those times where I would definitely consider going DIY, making your own rig and just using it, and I don't think it'll be an issue. Because you're just going to do it, it's just for your own edification, then you're just going to be able to show those photos off later on. And I think that would probably work out just fine. So, if you're not sure, maybe send these guys over at Film Riot a question. They answer questions a lot too, just like me, and I think it would be good. Interesting question. I see you don't like the D5200, but as a hobbyist, I think it's a good choice. I've never been a fan of the 5200, 3100 Nikons or the low-end Canons. I forget what the T3, T4, T5, which are basically the same cameras. And I forget what the other low-end Canon is that's down there. Anyway, I'm not a fan of those because I see how much entry-level photographers struggle with those bodies. And they struggle with them because of the menu system. And while the Nikon menu system is definitely easier to use, some kind of a reminder here that has popped up. The Nikon system, in my opinion, Nikon menu is much easier to use. It's not easier to use than an external button and twist, with a dial. And when it's even and consistent throughout the entire body, like the 7000 and higher bodies, with your primary functions, your ISO, your aperture, and your shutter, and then of course your white balance, or sometimes you'll set and change your white balance, but most of the time I recommend keeping it on auto. Having those settings right there at your fingertips and be able to grab them and go is huge when you're first learning. And so, one button, turn, and I'm done. I don't have to change it. Instead, you got to go into the menu, you got to find it, you got to learn it, and it makes it very difficult to learn. That's why I'm not a fan of the low-end bodies. That's why I recommend for most people to start out with at least a 7000, 7100. Even if they're an entry-level photographer and they're just learning, because those cameras are going to be easier to learn on than a 3100 or 5200. You can grow into a 7000. You're going to grow out of a 3100 or 5200 rather quickly, in my opinion. So that's why I say that. It's worth going from Lightroom 4 to 5. If it's an upgrade path, yes. Only costs you, $70 or whatever. I'd say yes. If you're buying new, obviously you're going to buy the newest version. But as someone did say to me, asked me a couple weeks ago, I do think that we could have had more features in 5 in order to press that upgrade. I think there's going to be a lot of people just sticking with 4 because they don't see the need to upgrade, because it really isn't that huge of a jump. Is it better to use flash in flower photography? There's no such thing as better, in my opinion, in anything in photography, for the most part. Except for the bodies, that is. Better to use flash? No. If you need to use flash to create what you want to create, then use it. If you can get away with just available light, then use that. But it really is coming down to what you want to create and how you want to create it. And so that's kind of the bottom line there. Which is good, Tamron, 70-300 or Sigma? I am not a fan of a 70-300 lens. It's too long of a focal length. From 70-300, you're talking about a 3.5 times zoom or whatever it is. That's too long. Anything over like a 2 or a 2.5 times zoom is way too long, in my opinion. You know, the 70-200 is about the longest zoom that you'll want to get into. Once you get into, say, a 3 or a 5 or a whatever, a 7 times zoom, you're talking about a lens. There's so many elements in order to make that work, and you're just talking about the quality just goes down. It's just terrible. So you really want to be thinking about that and stay away from those 70-200s, in my opinion. One more comment. Do you have any experience with the... No. Nope, sorry. I only use my Nikon lenses. I don't know what anybody else uses. Happy with mine. Gonna stick with mine. No. Sorry. Nils. Okay. I think that's it for today. A lot of good comments, a lot of good questions. Let me know how the ebook was. If you liked it, that'd be cool. Haven't had a lot of comments lately. I'm surprised. I thought there'd be more comments on it, more questions about it, more talk in general. But hey, that's the way it goes. The website is running a lot better nowadays. I had updated to some new servers and have some pretty heavy caching on the site right now. So it should be loading a lot better for you. And so check it out. Let me know how things are going for you. I'd really appreciate some feedback there with how it is running for you and how it's doing, because I'm really working hard and trying my best to really maximize how it's running and what it's doing, and trying to keep it consistent for you, because I know it hasn't been for the last few weeks, probably even in, say, 2 months, and that's way too long to be that way, and so I'm just trying to make it better. So let me know how it is doing. I think that is it. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. Keep shooting. See ya.